We're going now to Bethlehem. The current wave of violence in Israel and the Palestinian territories has cast a damper on the Christmas holiday. In Bethlehem, preparations are underway for the traditional midnight mass at the Church of the Nativity, but this year the city is emptier than normal. Here's more.
A towering Christmas tree illuminates the West Bank city of Bethlehem. But this year's celebration has been overshadowed by the ongoing wave of violence, which began in early October. As a result, a heavy security presence has been deployed throughout the city. Palestinian officials say people's spirits have been dampened and that Bethlehem's economy has been hard hit.
Tourists from all over the world, we're not seeing a lot as we used to see in the past. Possibly this is because they are cautious of coming over here.
Unfortunately, the violence try to make down the happiness of the people, but we are reacting and say no.
The political situation played a very bad role in this season in matter of having a lot of clients coming in, a lot of pilgrims coming in to celebrate Christmas in the City of Peace.
At the Manger Square Hotel, business is down 50% compared to last year.
Like last year at this time, we won't be able to do this interview here in the lobby.
Bethlehem's residents rely heavily on tourism, especially at this time of the year. It appears that for some, it will not be a very Merry Christmas.
Yes, the City of Peace. Let's go there now live to Bethlehem, where I-24 News correspondent and analyst Mohammed Al-Qasim is standing by. Mohammed, good evening. Bethlehem, as we know, is a prime destination for Christian pilgrims, but the recent violence between Palestinians and Israelis must have led to a decline in bookings this year.
That's absolutely correct, Ayman. The recent violence has overshadowed the festive atmosphere that otherwise you would feel and see here in the city, which we felt in previous years. This year, because of the current wave of violence and the insecurity in the Palestinian territories as well as in Israel and Jerusalem, pilgrims, visitors, even Palestinians from Israel, from Israel or from the Palestinian territories stayed away from Bethlehem. Tonight, for example, we see less than 10,000 people here in the Manger Square celebrating, or getting ready to celebrate midnight mass. So you could feel that there is some kind of this insecure feel about being here tonight.
Yes, and Mohammed, we see the images there in Bethlehem as you're reporting, but you also mentioned the recent round of violence. What are some of the concerns for Palestinians in Bethlehem in light of this violence that's been occurring recently?
I'm sorry, Ayman, what's that again?
Well, we want to know, Mohammed, what are some of the major concerns for Palestinians in Bethlehem tonight?
Well, tonight, basically, they want to, have a peaceful night to be able to celebrate this Christmas Eve and celebrate Christmas in peace without any hostilities or any security issues. I can tell you that there is heavy presence of Palestinian security here in the city. It has been for the last few days. President Abbas, the president of Palestinian Authority, is here available on hand, celebrating the mass with the Latin Patriarch Fuad Tawal. So speaking to Palestinians here in the city, they just want to see, and they're looking they're looking hopeful into the future. They want to see peace, as this Christmas is all about. This day is all about for not only for today but for the future.
Yes, looking forward to peace. Mohammed Al-Qasim joining us from Bethlehem, the West Bank. Thank you for that. Professor Navon, it's a complex issue. Mohammed Al-Qasim is reporting about Christians in Bethlehem, but the situation of Christians in Muslim countries throughout the Middle East is extremely complex.
Including in Bethlehem itself, because the population, the Christian population of Bethlehem used to be about 80% in 1948. it was about 40 to 50%, depending on the statistics, in the late 90s, and today it's about between 10 and 20%. The percentage of the Christian population has decreased dramatically in Bethlehem, but also in many other countries in the Middle East. We know, for example, what is the fate of the Christians in Egypt. They also have been persecuted. And generally speaking, of course, if you take the more radical example of the Islamic State, where no minorities are tolerated, and the Christians there are not only persecuted but even murdered in the Islamic State. So yes, there has been a crisis of Christianity in the Middle East for many years.
And this crisis, how do we see it playing out? Do they leave these Muslim countries because of persecution, or do they convert to Islam in some cases?
No, in most cases they simply leave. I mean, it was the case, for example, in Lebanon. Lebanon, used to be called the Switzerland of the Middle East. Progressively was taken over by the PLO and then by Hezbollah, and many of the Christians just left. It's not that they converted to Islam; they just left, and we know what it has become, of course, of Lebanon, unfortunately, today. Now, many Christians in the West are talking about this. Feel that they have a responsibility vis-a-vis the Christians in the East. France, for example, which was the mandatory power in Lebanon before the Second World War, always felt they had this responsibility towards the Christians, but at the end of the day, when the civil war erupted in Lebanon, France and other Western powers did not exactly come to the rescue of the Christians.
Well, we're always talking about what the West can do to alleviate the crises in the Middle East generally. What can Westerners do, Christian Westerners do, to help or somehow better the situations of Christians in Muslim countries in the Middle East? Is there something to do?
They have some leverage on many of these countries, and I think that just mentioning the issue is a first step. Not keeping it under the carpet, but really mentioning it. That's a first step. And many Western countries have a lot of leverage on the countries in the Middle East, and they should insist, especially when they talk about establishing new states, especially a Palestinian state, that they respect the rights of the minorities. And when we see what has been the fate of the Christians in Bethlehem, I think it is the duty of the international community, especially of Western countries, to demand the respect of the rights of the Christian minorities in the Middle East.
Certainly something to hope for, especially now ahead of Christmas weekend. Professor Marno Navon, thank you very much for being with us tonight.